I'm Greg Miniger with SISNW. Thank you for attending our webinar today. I've been helping medical practice and administrators with business solutions for over 20 years. Today's webinar is all about offering you some insights I've found that may be of interest to you. We're going to talk about the hidden costs of not automating office tasks that you can automate and provide recommendations to help you create a smoother running back office. I know that many of you come from diverse backgrounds before you start working in a medical clinic. Some of you are newer to your position, but most of you may have been in your job for many years. The two things that you all have in common with your job are that you run or are part of a lean office staff. You have needed to become a Jack or Jill of all trades in order to do your job. So this means you often have more work to do than you can accomplish. Your day is full of many tasks, and I have seen firsthand how hard you all work. But working hard like that takes its toll. I imagine that for many medical administrators, your day can become a blur of tasks. So you're forced to multitask. For example, the insurance provider calls you back, and you must pick up the call. The photocopier gets jammed. The doctor can't find a file. One of your staff calls in sick, and so you're doing her job too, and so it goes. Perhaps, like the woman in this picture, you or someone in your office spends too much time scanning and entering in all the daily mail, all while getting interrupted. And then you have service providers like me who may call and interrupt and try to tell you about automation. You may wonder how to get to whatever that is, and how do you even stop to figure out how to prioritize your office improvements? I want to suggest that the areas to start automating, and I will define how one automates, are starting with menial tasks all around your patient payments and insurance payments in the mailroom. But first, let me point out something that you may have heard before about the way most of you do business today: multitasking. Multitasking does not actually exist. If you spend time multitasking to try to beat the clock, studies now show that we may think we are multitasking, but we are not. Let me prove it to you. Try this next test later and make sure you time yourself. Write out 12 spaces. First put multitasking. Now put 12 spaces underneath that and write out yes, can be slow. So let me show you what that looks like. When we write one line at a time, we can do it pretty quickly like this. Maybe not quite that fast, but fairly quickly. But if we try to do it where we do one letter on one line and the next letter on the next line, you will be a lot slower. In fact, the brain slows down to get ready for the next task and to rethink where you left off. Let me show you what I mean. So this exercise shows how hard that is on our brain, but this is what happens when we multitask. We often make the mistake of thinking that being busy means being effective, but we're actually much slower. Studies show that it takes your brain 4 times longer to recognize and process each thing you are working on when you switch back and forth. In fact, you can lose up to 40% of your productivity if you multitask, according to Psychology Today. The busier we get, the more multitasking we end up doing, but the result is we're actually less effective. For many of you, working smarter and faster can also give you a headache at the end of the day. But I think you also know this next thing. Busy is a precursor to mistakes. When the work is just not slowing down, it's hard not to do this to keep up with too much work. I'd like to share some interesting numbers about mistakes that happen in most medical practices. 100% of the medical back office staff make mistakes. Yes, that includes the admin side. And you know that these mistakes can be tough. For example, if you scan something and then destroy the original and you didn't scan it right, those mistakes can be permanent, hard to undo. I once walked into one of my customers' front offices, and the person at the desk was scanning documents and sending them straight to the shredder, all while answering calls, filing charts, and doing other tasks. Does that make sense? Here's a sample list of the types of mistakes that occur. I don't want to dwell on these mistakes. I think it's painful for many of you to think about these things, but they're real. And these are just a few. But I think what these mistakes have in common, they're mundane and repetitive tasks. We tend to make mistakes with things that don't require all your concentration, but perhaps should. This is where I see the best area for automation, on repetitive, mundane tasks. And one form of automation is chunking out the work. Let me explain. If you plan your daily work into chunk-sized pieces, you'll go faster. You've probably heard this before. Starting with your highest priority that is pressing at you that day is better than immediately getting on email and reacting to each new request coming in. Focusing on each task will let you go faster. If I can sum up your highest priorities, it could fit into these two business goals: reducing costs and improving services. There's a Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, and it seems to apply to so many things. 20% of your tasks will account for 80% of your value. So in anything you do, you're probably working on priorities that are best fitting underneath one of these two goals. When you reduce your multitasking, you'll be able to get more value out of your day and address more of your higher priorities. When it comes to specific tasks, here's a methodology for prioritization. It's called the ABCDE rule. A can stand for you must immediately act. B can stand for you better act. C can stand for you could get to. D can stand for you could delegate. And E can stand for you eliminate that task and not ever get to it. What I like about this is acknowledging you can't do it all. What is going to go, and is there a better way? What specifically can you delegate or eliminate? So enough about prioritizations. I want to get back to this idea of mistakes. I realize you will never get rid of all that multitasking that happens, but you could do this. Having a process in-house that enables for validation of work will reduce mistakes. It's through segregation of duties. This best practice has someone else check the work. Besides chunking work out, delegation of duties is also a form of automation, human automation. It's basically where you create your own assembly line of work to get it done faster with checks along the way. Here's why this best practice is absolutely imperative for you. If there's money involved, there's often fraud. In fact, a 2009 Medical Group Management Association survey of almost 1,000 medical practice staff found out that nearly 83% had an affiliation with a practice that fell victim to employee theft. When you're a busy, lean office and you don't have the necessary checks and balances in place, you're setting yourself up for embezzlement. The consultants we partner with who work with medical offices tell us it continues to be very, very common. They always recommend segregation of duties as a best practice. They also emphasize that trust is not a control. You can change your daily routine and improve quality using some free, age-old, wise business practices that you can immediately implement to make your office run better. Let me summarize. Focus on completing one task at a time. Prioritize your most pressing work at the beginning of the day. Put it on your calendar and your staff's calendar. Try to avoid calls during this time. Set up roles for validating the work. There's one more practice that you can consider, and that is delegation. It's the D in the ABCDE list. It's actually not in your best interest to do everything in-house. It actually can be quite costly to do so. Let me explain. Here are some of the repetitive menial tasks that you can have someone else do and free up your staff for more important tasks. Open and sort incoming mail, payments, letters from insurance companies, requests for patient records, etc. Preparing and making bank deposits, posting revenue, scanning or filing incoming mail or sending to storage. We have seen that in-house, each account update takes about 2 to 4 minutes on average. So with a $20 an hour fully burdened labor rate, each posting is costing your practice from 71 cents to $1.40. This work can be outsourced and done for a fraction of that cost, at least by our company. You may be thinking, I don't think we do that many updates on a daily basis, but our experience is it all adds up to quite a bit of time. Depending on the size of your practice, here's what we see on average for a medical clinic. These updates add up to 2 to 4 hours a day or more. This is time that could be freed up per staff member who works in your billing area. Yes, there is a fee to use an outside service, but it helps you do a number of things better. For example, you now stop the indirect costs from mistakes, you can improve your overall service, and you free up staff time to pursue other revenue opportunities like claim denials and overdue patient accounts. So our typical client saves a lot on an hourly-salary perspective. How much depends on your type of practice and size, but we see that it's a significant saving. It especially becomes a direct savings if you're wondering about hiring additional staff. If your office demands are getting more complex and demanding, you may be thinking that outsourcing to a service provider would make mistakes go up and visibility to all your patient information go down. It's actually the absolute opposite. Let me give you a quick case study of ENT Associates Southwest in Olympia, Washington. Katie Kreider was already concerned that her staff was not protected by separation of duties, making the staff vulnerable to mistakes. As part of an audit, her CPA recommended including reviewing their accounts receivable processes and banking and payment posting processes in particular. Katie took a tour of our facility to evaluate our lockbox service. Some of the things that she noted was that we offered vetted and well-trained employees, segregation of duties with many checks for each process, easy visibility and access to all their information, well cataloged and searchable, same-day deposits, and a HIPAA-compliant environment. So how do we do it? We use very strong roles, processes, and checks. We are known to have the highest quality service, far exceeding what you could get with a bank or in-house. We also use great technology to scan, catalog, and provide searchable documents and checks and archive those so you can go completely paperless. Katie has been using our services since 2015, and this is what she says. I fully trust SIS&W with handling all of our checks. Their facility is like a Fort Knox of check processing. I would recommend their affordable lockbox services to any medical office. Our medical office has used SIS&W for over 3 years, and they have proven themselves as a highly reliable extended part of our administrative team. So in conclusion, just know that you have options to automate your repetitive tasks like receivables, in-house and with a partner, and know that more coffee breaks are possible. If you choose to keep your receivables in-house, I want to reiterate, please reduce your multitasking. Reconsider how you set up your roles, accountability, and verification of your staff. That will actually speed you up and lower your mistakes. It will save you many headaches in the long run. Remember, if you make a mistake with something that used to be paper and was destroyed, it's hard to go back. But our customers tell us we do it far better than what you can accomplish given the many challenges you are already taking on. If you want to talk to us about any of our services, we'd be glad to tell you more. That's it, and here's my contact information along with Jim Mountain, who is our Vice President of Sales in the Portland area. Thanks again for your time today. I really appreciate it. And again, if you'd like to talk offline, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email to schedule a time. Thanks very much.